the cradle of the Renaissance. A city of marble domes, painted chapels, and revolutionary ideas. But behind its golden age stood one family, not royal, not military, but rich, brilliant, and ruthless. The Medici were bankers, but they didn't just shape Florence, they shaped the modern world. This is the story of ambition, beauty, power, and survival. This is the story of the Medici. To understand how one family could change the course of Western civilization, we have to go back to the 14th century. A time when Italy was not a unified country, but a collection of rival city-states: Venice, Milan, Naples, Rome, and Florence. Florence was a republic, at least in name. It had councils, votes, and no king. But like all republics, real power lay behind the scenes, in wealth and influence, in who you owed money to. And no one understood this better than Giovanni de' Medici. Giovanni came from modest means. His family was involved in banking, but they weren't dominant. That changed when he founded the Medici Bank in 1397. It wasn't just any bank, it was revolutionary. The Medici Bank introduced double-entry bookkeeping, a method that would change financial systems forever. Giovanni loaned money to the powerful, including the Pope. In return, he got favors, contracts, political protection, and most importantly, trust. He never flaunted his wealth, preferring to work behind the curtain. But his fortune gave the Medici family their start. When Giovanni died, his son Cosimo de' Medici, often called Cosimo the Elder, took control, and everything changed. Cosimo was brilliant. He understood that money was only part of power. Influence mattered more. He began using the family fortune to fund architecture, libraries, churches, and most importantly, people. He backed artists and thinkers, men like Donatello, Brunelleschi, and Marsilio Ficino, who didn't just build things, they built Florence's image as the center of Renaissance thought. But with power, enemies. In 1433, Cosimo was arrested and exiled by rival families who feared his growing control. It should have been the end. Instead, it was a turning point. Cosimo used his financial network to cut off credit to Florence, crashing the city's economy. Within a year, the people and the elites begged for his return. He came back stronger than ever. From then on, Florence was a republic in name only. Behind the scenes, the Medici were in charge. But the family's greatest patron, and perhaps the most iconic Medici, was Lorenzo de' Medici, known as Lorenzo the Magnificent. Lorenzo was a true Renaissance man, a poet, a statesman, and a lover of beauty. Under his rule in the late 1400s, Florence reached its cultural peak. He supported Michelangelo as a young boy. He funded Botticelli, who painted The Birth of Venus and Primavera. He protected Leonardo da Vinci, allowing him the freedom to explore art, science, and anatomy. Lorenzo's court was filled with artists, philosophers, and scholars. It was a place where ancient texts were translated, where Plato and Aristotle were debated, and where ideas flowed freely. But Lorenzo's power also made him a target. In 1478, during High Mass in the Florence Cathedral, the Pazzi family, backed by Pope Sixtus IV, tried to assassinate him. His brother Giuliano was stabbed to death on the cathedral floor. Lorenzo escaped with a wound and returned to power with vengeance. The conspirators were hunted down. Some were killed in the streets. Others were hanged from windows of government buildings. Florence bled, but the Medici remained. After Lorenzo's death in 1492, the family struggled. His son Piero, known as Piero the Unfortunate, lacked the skill to lead. The French invaded, and Piero fled. The Medici were exiled, and Florence tried to return to its republican roots. But the Medici were never far. In 1512, with the help of Spanish troops and political maneuvering, they returned. And now, they weren't content with Florence alone, they aimed for Rome. Lorenzo's son Giovanni de' Medici became Pope Leo X in 1513. It was the ultimate victory, a banker's son sitting on the throne of St. Peter. As Pope, Leo X used church funds to continue Medici patronage. He hired Raphael to decorate the Vatican and supported Michelangelo's work on the Sistine Chapel. But Leo also overspent. To raise money, the church ramped up the sale of indulgences, payments for forgiveness. This in turn sparked the Protestant Reformation led by Martin Luther in 1517. The Medici's legacy, once filled with beauty and philosophy, had now unintentionally fractured Christianity. Another Medici Pope, Clement VII, would face the consequences. During his papacy, Rome was sacked by Charles V's troops. The Holy Roman Empire ransacked the city. Clement fled and hid in the Castel Sant'Angelo. The power of the papacy and the Medici was shaken, but the Medici pivoted again, this time through marriage. In 1533, Catherine de' Medici, a teenager from the Medici family, married the future king of France, Henry II. Though she began as an outsider, Catherine would become queen and later regent, ruling France during one of its most violent periods, the wars of religion between Catholics and Protestants. She navigated brutal politics, ordered massacres like the infamous St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, and held the French crown together for decades. Another Medici, Marie de' Medici, would later become queen as well, mother to Louis XIII and grandmother to Louis IV, the Sun King. Back in Florence, the family shifted again, from merchants to monarchs. In 1537, Cosimo I de' Medici, a distant relative, rose to power after the assassination of Duke Alessandro. Though only 17, Cosimo proved a capable and ruthless leader. He crushed rebellion, centralized power, and declared himself Grand Duke of Tuscany, officially turning the Medici into royalty. Cosimo built military forts, created a modern bureaucracy, and expanded Medici influence across Italy. He also continued the tradition of patronage.
You make a price that's affordable.
He commissioned
for you.
artists and architects, funded science, and supported a young astronomer named Galileo Galilei, who later named Jupiter's 4 largest moons after the Medici. Over the next century, the Medici dukes ruled Tuscany like a private kingdom. They improved infrastructure, supported medicine and natural sciences, and filled Florence with even more art and palaces. But with each generation, the family weakened. The later Medici rulers were more concerned with luxury than leadership. Their bank collapsed, trade declined, their political relevance faded. By the early 1700s, only one Medici remained with real influence, Anna Maria Luisa de' Medici, the last of the line. She had no children, no heirs, and when her brother, Grand Duke Gian Gaston, died in 1737, the Medici dynasty ended after nearly 300 years. But Anna Maria left one final gift. She signed the Patto di Famiglia, the family pact, which stated that all Medici art and treasures must remain in Florence. Because of her, the Medici legacy lives on. Walk through the Uffizi Gallery, and you're surrounded by their taste, their choices, their mark on history. Step inside San Lorenzo, Palazzo Vecchio, Palazzo Pitti, and you're walking in the world they built. The Medici gave us the Renaissance, not by painting or sculpting, but by believing in those who did. They nurtured the geniuses of the age. They ruled with money, not swords. And they understood that power fades, but culture is eternal. In the end, they weren't just Florence's most powerful family, they were Europe's. And their fingerprints are still all over the art, the politics, and the ideas that shaped the world. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Medici, give this video a like and subscribe for more history that changed humanity. And let us know in the comments, which Medici do you think was the most important?